All right, people, we are back, and I've got Jono with me. Jono, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Looking forward to the second test.
Yes, and that's why we're here. The first test match, as beautiful as it was, it's done. Jono did not give Australia any chance, but Australia is one test match up already. And now we're moving to the second test, which is going to be played at Lord's Cricket Ground. Before the first test match, you were really confident and you gave Australia, 2-1? England will win the series 2-1. Now, Australia's already won that one test match. Now, if your prediction has to come true, then that means Australia cannot win any test match, but we're playing at Lord's. So tell me, what do you think? How's Australia's record at Lord's?
Yeah, you finished on a point I was going to raise there, which is that Australia have an amazing record at Lords. Since 1934, they've won 10 of the tests that they played against England there. England have only won 2 of those games in that time.
Wow.
There's been plenty of draws
Okay.
there as well, but Australia have tended to dominate England at Lords. I'm not really sure why, but it seems to be a ground they prefer playing at.
Australia could not have asked for a better ground to play the second test match at the back of this win. So
Yeah,
Australia potentially could go 2-0 up if we just look at the record. Now, obviously, things are a bit more complicated. You can't take anything for granted. So tell us, what's the gossip? What news coming out of the English camp?
so England had named their starting 11 already. So it's the same top 7 from Crawley down to Bairstow.
Okay.
Moeen Ali didn't have a great game last game, picked up that finger injury, so he misses out for the second test. In his place, England have called in Josh Tongue. It's only his second test for England. He made his debut against Ireland
Spinner?
3 weeks ago. No, so he's not a spinner.
Oh,
England have gone with four
four seamers.
frontline seamers. Yeah, and no
Wow.
spinner.
What's the logic behind that?
I think Lords is looking like it's got a bit of a green wicket at the moment. Certainly, the pictures that were taken 2 days out, it was a very green surface, which will certainly favour England's swing and seam bowlers. Josh Tongue has been called in. Mark Wood declared himself unfit for the test. Josh Tongue was the only fit bowler that England really have that can hit 90 miles an hour. So he's got an extra yard of pace on Anderson, Broad, and Ollie Robinson, who all play again.
So Jimmy Anderson retained his spot. Okay.
He retained his spot, yeah. I was wondering if they'd bring Chris Wokes in, but they've gone with Josh Tongue in this case.
One of my predictions proven to be false. Okay. But Australia, I said that Mitch Stark would be coming back in for Hazelwood. Australia haven't announced the playing 11, have they?
Not yet, no. They don't tend to announce theirs until the toss. We'll get an idea in an hour or two when we start seeing the players do their warm-up routines, who's doing what on the field. But I suspect it'll be Scott Boland who misses out, and it'll be Stark that comes in.
I'm saying Hazelwood is out. John is saying Boland would be out. May the best man wins. Okay, so what's the weather forecast looking like? Who do you think is going to win the toss? Because toss really matters. Who's going to get to bat first?
So there's a bit of weather around today, potentially. Certainly some clouds, potentially some rain tomorrow as well. So with the clouds, England's swing bowlers will be looking to bowl today, which will also mean that England's bat second and bat fourth. Or as Ben Stokes put it, when he wins the toss, he doesn't say we'll have a bowl. He says we'll have a chase.
Yeah, especially after what happened in the first test match, they might think that only if Australia weren't batting last, they would not have chased it down, because I'm sure Ben Stokes would have felt so helpless that, hang on, 140 runs to get, we can't get these last 3 wickets. When you're batting, you're at least in the driving seat, especially the way this modern day cricket is played. Is there going to be any major change in the English strategy, or are they just going to play the way they always play? Nathan Lyon is playing his 100th consecutive test match, and I think he gave a statement. He said that we're not going to change. We're going to keep playing the way we've been playing. And of course, why would you change anything now, especially when you win in England, when you've defeated Bazmore? So yeah, do you think England are a bit shook? A little bit? Maybe just a little bit?
No, I don't think they'll be rattled. They've gone into all these games they've played for the last year or so. They've gone into them with a we don't care if we win or lose mentality. which means when you lose, it's not it's not as devastating as it might be otherwise. I think it'll be interesting to see who Australia target with the bowlers. In the first test, they were going after Moeen Ali. Every time he was brought on to bowl, they were guaranteed sixes. So it'll be interesting to see where they think they can score their runs from, if they're going to try and keep up at the same run rate that they did in the first test.
Yeah, but Lords, you've said that Australia have a considerably better record against England at Lords, but there's one guy who's been very good at Lords over the last 2 decades almost, Jimmy Anderson, overcast conditions. Yes, he's 40 years old, and that's a very interesting point that you made there. In a test match, they look for the weakest link. Okay, this is where we're going to get most of our runs from. And it's going to be interesting. Okay, they might look at Josh Tongue, but when you take a bit of extra risk against a newcomer or a bowler, then you also open up the opportunity to losing wickets. So what do you reckon? Jimmy Anderson had a pretty ordinary first test match. You reckon Australia are going to target Tongue or maybe Jimmy Anderson, and in the process, it's going to make for a very interesting battle?
Yeah. I think Jimmy, by his own standards, definitely had a test match to forget. But it seems like the Lord's pitch is going to be a bit more helpful for him. I listened to an interview where he said he was absolutely knackered after day 5 of bowling on a flat, lifeless pitch. So if Lords has got something in the pitch, then Australia would probably be wise not to go after him. And as for Josh Tongue, there's certainly, when a new bowler comes on the scene, it's always risky going after them. And Josh Tongue actually got Steve Smith out in county cricket about 2 months ago. So it's not the first time that they've met. Steve Smith has a good record at Lords as well.
Yeah.
Granted, last time he did get clocked in the head by Jofra Archer.
Yeah.
But up to that point, he had been doing very well. I think in 2015 was when he hit that 215.
Yeah. It was the one before the last one. Okay. Aussie batting lineup. Warner is under immense pressure. It looked promising in the second innings, made 34 runs, I think. Looked better. He's always good when he's hitting on the offside. What do you reckon? You reckon he's going to break the shackles this time round?
I think he's been under pressure for
quite some time now.
David Warner. Yeah. Playing a bit of root maths here, but if you take out that double ton from the Boxing Day test, he really hasn't scored enough runs to merit keeping his place in the team. And if Broad or any of the other England bowlers get him early, he could be looking at his curtain call in the next match. It's interesting to see if the Australia selectors will stand by him, because I'm not sure. They've got Marcus Harris.
So we've got Marcus Harris, we've got Matt Renshaw. Matt Renshaw's played a couple of test matches, a big, tall left-hander from Queensland. He's okay, but plays very conservatively. Then Marcus Harris, yes, but then no David Warner. So looking at the current Australian batting lineup, it's very strange to see that England are more aggressive in the batting than Australia. And if you take out David Warner, then you take that sting out of Australian batting lineup even more. But having said that, you still got to get some runs, and Warner hasn't been getting any runs. So even the selectors would come under a lot of pressure, despite them wanting to stick with David Warner. But the fact that you've got Marcus Harrison, you've got Matt Renshaw, that shows that they do have a contingency plan. So I think for David Warner's sake, I think he needs a good at least 60, 70, 80. He needs something so the selectors can back him up. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting to do or die time now for Warner. He said before the series that he would like to retire at the SCG next year, but the way he's going, if the selectors have any sense, he won't make it there.
Wow, you're brutal, man. And the fact that he actually said it, that actually shows that he also knows. He's like, oh man, I might get dropped. Please don't, just let me get to the Sydney Test and then I'll retire myself. And who knows, in the meantime, I might manage to get a couple of hundreds and then I'll be like, oh, hang on, maybe I can hold it off for another year or so. Steve Smith, obviously, he's still got a good couple of years in him. Didn't do well in the first Test match, but got 100 in that World Championship final. So What do you reckon about Steve Smith and Labuschagne? Do you think they're going to get some runs?
Yeah, Marnus in particular had a bad game at Edgbaston.
Very un-Marnus-like, chasing that.
Yeah, and it's very rare for both of them to fail in the same game in the way they did. So yeah, they'll both be looking to prove a point here. As I mentioned, Smith has a great track record at Lords, so he'll be inching to get those runs under his belt and actually make a positive start to the series.
But what about the star of the first test match, Uzi Khawaja? He's going to be looking good. He made 65 in the second innings, big ton in the first one. Before the first test match, both Uzi Khawaja and David Warner, they've had a terrible record in England. And now Usman Khawaja, I think he's safe for the rest of the Ashes. What do you reckon? You reckon his good form is going to continue?
Yeah, I think so. He looks in very good touch. He was taking advantage of some questionable bowling at times as well, but that's not to say that he didn't play a fantastic innings in that first innings.
Yeah, you still have to be there. What Test cricket is all about. You got to.
Yeah, and the whole time he was there in
out.
the second innings, it seemed like Australia were going to get home.
Okay, let's wrap this up. England, as far as the batting is concerned, they're not going to change much. I think if he is put to bat first, I don't think Ben Stokes would be declaring on day one. That's a given. Australia's batting looking much more promising now, especially after Usman Khawaja's 100. And despite the fact that Australia were chasing their tail throughout the test match, but they came out on top. That says a lot. And now their confidence would be high. That's 2 consecutive test match wins in England. Obviously, I'm including the Test Championship final as well. So I think Australia have a good chance of winning that. So it's not going to be just like, okay, we're playing at home, Bazball, Ben Stokes, aggressive captain. Yeah, this game is out. It's not going to be easy.
Absolutely not, no. And as we saw in the women's test over the weekend, having a spinner in your squad is so important because without Ash Gardner, Australia could well have lost that test. So England's going into this game without a frontline spinner. They can ask Joe Root to throw a few overs down. I know Ollie Robinson bowls a bit of spin as well as medium pace. But without a frontline spinner, England could find themselves in trouble if they're having to bowl on a day 4 or 5 pitch.
It's interesting. Joe Root bowled a lot of overs. But Joe Root, let's not forget, he is your best batsman as well. So overworking him as a bowler, which he shouldn't be, that's not a good sign either. Ben Stokes got a dodgy knee, so he's not bowling as well or as much as he should be. So if Joe Root is bowling through those middle overs when he's giving you 25 overs, I think that's going to have an impact on his batting as well.
Yeah, I don't think they'll go that far to ask him to bowl 20 plus overs. They'll probably look around and see if there's any. Yeah, apart from Ollie Robinson, I'm not sure if there are any other dibbly dobblers he could throw down a bit of spin in the side and probably cut this. But yeah, so let me just pick that up again. Actually, no.
Pick up from where I left off with Joe Root 25 overs. That's what.
Yeah,
that's the comment I made. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they would ask Joe Root to bowl that amount of overs. I certainly no more than 20, probably no more than 15 over the course of a new ball.
Even 20 is a lot.
Yeah, but it really depends on how well England's other bowlers are bowling, and with the conditions that we're expecting of Lords, hopefully they won't be needed too much. Certainly in the first 3 days.
All right, guys, this is it. Let's start again. All right. Hello. Okay. Okay. All right, guys, this is it. That's the preview of the first test match. The test match is going to start in about, 3 hours, 4 hours or something. We can't wait for that test match. And we will be back, not tomorrow, but the day after, just before the start of third day's play. Until then, bye-bye.